Germany is in serious trouble. Its economy, which once seemed unbreakable, has just entered a second year of recession, slowly plunging the country into chaos. Its government has just imploded, as their leader had some of the lowest approval ratings in the country's history. And it's not hard to see why. Affordable homes in Germany's major cities are nearly impossible to find. Energy prices are some of the highest in Europe, and many jobs, which were secure for decades, are simply disappearing. In this same period as life has got harder, since 2015, Germany has welcomed 8.8 million migrants, with many of these being refugees. While many people were accepting to begin with, as time has gone on, integrating this many people effectively has become even harder, and anti-migration sentiment has been rising. At the forefront of this is the Alternative for Deutschland party. Despite only being formed in 2013, in 2024 they shattered the political landscape, winning state elections and quickly becoming one of the nation's most popular parties. The AfD is a controversial party, filled with some members who have said very questionable things. Many in Germany's government are quick to draw comparisons between them and Germany's dark past, often labelling them as fascists. But this doesn't solve anything. Rather than siding with the government, these comments only ignore or belittle these very real concerns and push people further away, deepening their frustration. The rise of the AfD is about more than just an anti-immigrant sentiment. It reflects broader discontent with the directions many Germans feel their country is heading. For many, supporting the AfD isn't about embracing extremism, it's about rejecting policies they believe have failed them. So how did Germany go from being the best economy in Europe to being in the midst of an economic crisis, immigration crisis, and now a looming housing crisis? When we started this channel over 1 year ago, it was just me and one editor, but thanks to all your support, we've managed to grow it into a small business. And to manage this business, I use today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one management software that provides a range of applications to simplify the day-to-day management of your business. The first application is free for life, with unlimited hosting and support, and if you want to use 2 or more, then you can switch to the paid plan. Making videos requires a lot of work, so I use Odoo's project app to help me manage everything more efficiently. For this video, I created a project where we can track each of the steps, like writing, sourcing data, and editing. I've added deadlines to each task, and I can select from a number of different views to find the one that helps me stay organized. Personally, I like the calendar view because it gives me a clear visual overview of all our deadlines. But there's also the Kanban view where I can organize tasks by stage, and also the Gantt view for a timeline that helps me visualize dependencies, and also many more. I can see who all the tasks are assigned to, and since it's synchronized with the Timesheets app, I can track the time spent on each task, evaluate our team's performance, and keep tabs on cost and budgets, all in one place. If you want to try out your first application completely for free, then you can click the first link in the description or the pinned comment. To see how Germany got itself in this state, we first need to understand what made it successful in the first place. When you think of Germany, what may come to mind is brands like BMW, Mercedes, or even Adidas. Germany has used these world-renowned names to become an export powerhouse. Their products are known for their quality, and they enjoy high demand across the world. As Germany has grown, almost all elements of their economy have been built around this. At its peak in 2016, Germany recorded a $310 billion trade surplus, the world's largest, contributing nearly 10% toward GDP. But there is a problem with this kind of growth. You see, it works when everyone wants to buy your stuff, but as a global economic slowdown, the ever-increasing rise of China as competition, and the potential of tariffs from major trading partners like America have been causing real problems. This is not just bad news for companies' profits. It means many jobs across the nation which were once built on export success are now at real risk. Across Germany, nearly 500,000 jobs are now at risk, especially ones which people thought that they could rely on. Pick any industrial town across the country and you will see the same story. Nowhere is this better seen than with a company like Volkswagen. For decades, a job here meant security and enough to support a family. However, globalization and automation have chipped away at this safety, and now it seems to be reaching a tipping point. All across Germany, factories are rapidly closing, and with it, many stable jobs are simply vanishing, leaving people struggling to adapt to a changing world. While Germany's economy opened up to the world, it has become less competitive. Inflation, deindustrialization, and stagnating wages have eroded living standards. But there is one area in particular where these effects are hurting more than anywhere else. When we look at a map of Germany across some key metrics, whether it be living standards, level of education, or even happiness, we can see a clear divide. This isn't a coincidence. This is Germany's East, formerly part of Soviet-controlled East Germany, and it's followed a very different trajectory from the West. For nearly half a century, these two sides operated under vastly different economic systems, and after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, reunification presented a major challenge, integrating the capitalist industrialized West with a region shaped by 45 years of socialism. Despite billions of euros invested annually to modernize infrastructure, schools, and healthcare, the East continues to lag in key areas. Living standards, wages, and education remain lower than in the West, fostering a deep sense of frustration. While incomes in the East rapidly rose from 42% to 67% of Western levels in the 1990s, progress stagnated at around 74% for the next 2 decades. In this period, although Germany's economy appeared to thrive on the surface, with booming exports and international prestige, these regional disparities simmered beneath the surface. Eastern Germans increasingly felt like second-class citizens, left behind by the prosperity enjoyed in the West. Today, opportunities are scarce, wages have stagnated, and public services continue to lag. Household wealth is similarly skewed. While Western households average €127,000 in net wealth, those in the East average only $43,000. These persistent inequalities have deepened resentment, with many in the East feeling that despite decades of promises, they are still excluded from the prosperity that defines Western Germany. This has created fertile ground for political outsiders to rise, who present an alternative to the status quo, and no other party has become quite as popular in Germany as the AfD. To see just how effective they have been, take a look at this graph. Although support for the AfD is on the rise across the country, in the East their popularity has exploded. At its core, the AfD's platform revolves around opposition to globalization, skepticism toward the EU, and strong anti-immigration policies. These concerns are particularly amplified in the East, where young workers have migrated westward in search of opportunities. This map shows predicted population decline across Germany. In regions where the AfD's support is strongest, they are expected to lose 20% of their population in the next 20 years, leaving behind an aging population that struggles to adapt to new labour markets. So why have these issues in particular become so central to the sense of anger with Germany's government? The most important issue at the centre of the AfD's message is of course dissatisfaction with immigration. But why does Germany have an issue with migration to begin with? Germany's population is decreasing, with some estimates suggesting it could shrink by 4 million people by 2040. As the country grew richer, it had become more common for women to work over having children, and this led to birth rates dropping to all-time lows by 2010, as well as increasing numbers of baby boomers leaving the workforce and entering retirement. The bill for this was rapidly rising, with fewer people to fund state expenditures through taxation. It was calculated that to prevent this decline, Germany would need 400,000 migrants every single year. So the government under Angela Merkel made a decision. In 2015, they welcomed over 440,000 refugees, and in 2016 it was even more, accounting for around 60% of the European total. But already there was a problem. It seemed like Germany had bit off more than it could chew, taking in too many new arrivals too quickly, before systems and people had time to adjust. After this first wave, public attitude toward immigration was still mainly positive, but people were beginning to have concerns around a few things. The first was that migrants earned significantly less than native Germans, and this could cause a strain on public finances. A study done in 2015 found that in the first 2 years after arrival, migrants earned an estimated 55 to 60% of the incomes of natives, and this rose to 90% after 10 years. This makes sense, as for first-generation migrants, it will take them time to learn the language and develop the skills necessary to earn a higher wage. But in the immediate future, this presents a problem. Germany, like many other European countries, has a strong welfare state. And while some individuals benefit more from the system than they contribute, this is balanced by others who pay in more than they take out. This is after all the point of a welfare model, and this balance maintains an equilibrium. However, this equilibrium begins to shift when the number of people drawing from the welfare state increases without a corresponding rise in contributions. The other concern around migration in Germany is of course integration. While Germany has historically been very accepting of refugees, this has begun to gradually shift, with turning points coming in 2016, when reports of mass sexual assaults in Cologne on New Year's Eve triggered national outrage.
A New Year's Eve attack on scores of women in Germany.
Mich jemand gezogen hat am Mantel, ich hatte einen ganz langen Mantel, mich jemand gezogen hat, mir hinten am Po gepackt hat. Und dann aber auch so ja, nicht so gepackt, sondern so wirklich zugepackt.
Being in a crowd of men touching dead women, yeah, that's new. We didn't have that before.
We're upset and angry as women of the sexual violence that happened here in Cologne on New Year's Eve.
Although not all perpetrators were refugees, the attacks fueled anxieties about cultural incompatibility. These fears deepened after terror attacks in Berlin and other cities further eroded trust in the government's migration policies. These pressures resurfaced in 2023, with illegal border crossings rising by 70% and more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees arriving in Germany. These developments coincided with a 6% rise in crime, with foreigners, 15% of the population, accounting for 41% of offences. Germany clearly has an issue to address. But is the solution really as simple as just preventing immigration? Sectors such as engineering, healthcare, and IT are facing severe shortages, which would hurt the economy even more without the influx of skilled immigrants. Integrating skilled migrants into Germany's economy presents significant challenges. According to a study by the Institute for Employment Research, 41% of refugees employed in Germany were working below their qualification levels, even after 6 years in the country. Many migrants, especially those from non-EU countries, encountered barriers to unrecognised qualifications. This issue, often referred to as brain waste, prevents countless qualified professionals from working in their fields, forcing them into low-paying jobs that fail to utilise their expertise, further hampering integration. In response to public pressure, Olaf Scholz's government implemented stricter migration policies in July 2024, speeding up deportations and restricting benefits for migrants. But it seems like the damage has already been done, and people have developed a deep mistrust of the mainstream parties, as concern about immigration has surged to 86%, up from 67% the previous year. Another reason why this issue is particularly painful at the moment is because of the current housing shortage Germany is facing. Despite welcoming nearly 9 million people in the last 10 years, Germany doesn't have enough houses, with estimates suggesting a deficit of around 800,000 apartments as of 2024. And projections only indicate that this number is going to grow, as the construction sector has been unable to keep pace with demand, falling short of the government's goal of building 400,000 new homes annually. In 2023, this number was only 250,000, and this year, the number is expected to drop below 200,000. This shortage has led to skyrocketing rents, particularly in major cities like Berlin, where rental prices can reach as high as 19 euros per square metre. For many residents, housing is becoming a luxury, with more than half of the population dependent on the rental market due to low home ownership rates. As economic frustration grows, so does opposition to the EU, becoming a central feature of the AfD's platform. The party now portrays the EU as a failed project, criticising its handling of immigration and climate change, and arguing that Brussels is out of touch with national interests. They call for significant reforms, advocating a federation of European nations where each state retains sovereignty over key policies. Initially, the party's Euroscepticism focused on the Eurozone bailouts, but it has since evolved into a more radical stance. Tied into this is also opposition to ongoing military support in Ukraine. Whilst this conflict looks like it could be wrapped up sooner than expected with the victory of Donald Trump, many of these views stand in stark contrast with what many people believe of Germany being the leader of the EU and the spearhead of the European project. It's clear then that Germany has a whole host of issues that have been slowly building over time and are only now starting to show their face. The country faces upcoming elections, which will undoubtedly shape Germany and the EU, and whether any party, whether it be the AfD or another coalition, can fix it remains in doubt.